Hello, everybody. It's Alfred Parsart Jr. back with a post-trade deadline Metropolitan Report. Before we begin today's report, go down below, Metropolitan Report Podcast on YouTube. Subscribe. Underneath the Instagram, _Metropolitan_Report. We're on X, Mets_Report_pod. Facebook, Metropolitan Report. And, of course, on TikTok, Metropolitan Report Podcast. Shouting out everybody in the comments from Alfredo Flores, my good friend, all the way to Drew Learn. Hello and how do you do? Folks, we have a jam-packed show. Lots to talk about. The Mets very active sellers in the trade deadline. Just momentarily, I'm going to bring on my good friend Kevin Nasta, who formerly worked for Major League Baseball. We'll have him on the show to talk about the Mets and the trade deadline and all this other type of stuff. But it's no secret, Mets sellers at the deadline. The season's pretty much over. Even if the Mets win out, not going to be any factor in the playoff run. So, of course, at the trade deadline, the Mets are going to do what every team that's out of contention by the beginning of August, late July does. And they're going to sell. So we're going to talk about who got sold, who didn't get sold, and why I'm surprised they didn't get sold, who should have been sold, and so on and so forth. And, of course, we're going to talk about the return haul. So without further ado, I'm going to bring my guest on the screen here. Ladies and gentlemen, please welcome Mr. Kevin Nasta, if I could get the right layout for 1 second. There we go. Kevin, welcome to the Metropolitan Report, sir. Good to have you on.
What's going on? Can you hear me well?
I hear you loud and clear.
All right, beautiful.
Yep. So, Kevin, just real quick, introduce yourself to the audience here. This is your first appearance on the podcast. Just tell your people your background in baseball and and how you became to be a Met fan.
The last part we'll save for last. That's the crying part. So, yep, my name's Kevin Nasta. I worked for Major League Baseball's Advanced Media Department for parts of 15 years, doing statistics and data casting when we were doing live updates to the website for minor league baseball, straight to the website. Now, obviously, they send person to each stadium. They sit in the press box and they do live pitch by pitch updates. When that first came about back in 2005, minor league baseball used to get updated every half inning. The official scorer would call into the office. We would punch everything into the system, and it would, update the website so the families and friends that were following their family members in minor league baseball were updated as it goes along. So as they started to phase out the office feature, I was already working for the Staten Island Yankees as their official scorer from 2006 to their very final season in 2019. As everybody knows, when COVID hit, the New York Penn League was disbanded, and some teams were kept on as full season A ball or double A. The Staten Island Yankees were totally disbanded. They are now the independent Staten Island Ferry Hawks.
Yep, and correct me if I'm wrong. Independent ball is still some independent leagues still have some loose affiliation with Major League Baseball. I would believe
they do. Major League Baseball kind of uses independent ball as their experimental league with ABS. That's where ABS started. I remember going to when Somerset Patriots were an independent team. Now they're a New York Yankees affiliate. That's the first time I ever saw ABS being used live and challenges being used live in person. And they test it because independent ball is a collection of some people would say 4A players that are too good for AAA, but not really good for me. Kind of like Ronnie Mauricio,
or
that kind of player. Yeah. And but it's also some guys that are holding on to the water wagon a little longer than they should. They want to keep playing, but it happens. I mean, the Long Island Ducks have they have the most players ever that played for the Ducks that wound up re-signing somewhere in Major League Baseball.
Yep, everybody except Trevor Bauer. So
yeah, I mean, it's so stupid. I mean, it's just look. I know.
I feel bad for the guy.
I know the guy has done some dumb crap, and a lot of it came back as was mutual dumb crap between him and the other people. But I mean, if you're going to let players like Marcell Osuna and Aroldis Chapman
Maurice
and
Familia.
yeah, and there's many other players who put their hands on people when it wasn't appropriate, and they're still playing, and it's still people still cheering for them and everything else. So it's like, all right, come on, like I would have loved Trevor Bauer in New York, whether the Mets or the Yankees, he would have been a ticket sale in itself.
Oh, of course, of course. That guy. It's a shame he's now gone back to the Mexican League. He had a small stint with the Ducks. I actually got to
Yes.
see him pitch in his debut for the Ducks.
Yep,
So
threw a no hitter too.
Yeah, he's still got it, and he hasn't been in the league.
I
Since
love his social media content when him and Eric Sims go back and forth, and he challenges softball players, baseball players, and let me tell you something. The guy is a generous guy when it comes to this stuff because like he'll challenge a Division I college batter, and he'll say, all right, you got 10 pitches, and you got to put the ball in play fair. And they build a point system, like a walk is a point, but then you lose 2 points if you strike out. And then he'll literally, like, if they beat him, he'll literally give him like, here's $1,000.
Yep. No, he's been a good guy on social media. And I hope. I mean, it's very unlikely at this point, but I hope he does get back to a major league mound soon. The second question for you. So your Met fandom, how did it begin? When did it begin? Why did it begin?
My whole family are Met fans, so I was kind of born into the problem, and I was lucky enough to be alive and old enough to remember the 1986 World Series. I was 11 years old, so I do remember specifically running out of my apartment with a broomstick, and I had my Mets pillowcase duct taped to the broomstick like a flag, and I was running around in my pajamas with my friends. It was I want to say it was like 12:30 at night, a school night, and we were just running around like nut jobs for about 15 minutes, and then we went upstairs and went to sleep, and then we had a whole bunch to talk about on the bus the next day.
Yeah, no. Of course, I wasn't on Earth yet when the last title happened. I was 5 years away from making my debut in the world. But listen, no, I was at the game Saturday, and prior to the game, they honored the '86 team, and before they brought these guys out onto the field, they played Mookie Wilson's at bat in its entirety on the big screen at Citi Field. Mm-hmm. And when I tell you, I have never seen, and I've been to Citi Field many times since it opened. I've never seen Citi Field get so excited about something that did not happen live in front of them. Like they showed when when Mookie takes the pitch and he falls down, the ball gets behind him, and Kevin Mitchell scores.
Yep, Kevin Mitchell scores the time run.
The crowd in Citi Field was watching that, and they went electric. Like you would have thought, like it happened in front of us. We were there. Then they show the ball Buckner's legs and like the loudest roar of the season.
Yeah, you're talking about it, and I'm getting chills on my arm.
The loudest roar of the season from showing that 40-year-old footage happened on Saturday. Not any home run that Lindor or Soto hit or any strikeout, but it was archival footage that got a standing ovation in Citi Field on Saturday.
That was a special kind of team because it was absolute dysfunction. But it was organized dysfunction. It was the players knew what they could get away with, and they knew what they couldn't get away with. But they also knew Davey Johnson was a players manager, and whatever issues that they got into, Davey Johnson was going to have their back, or he was going to make the team pay for it, one or the other.
Yeah.
Like the plane ride from hell. The players all paid for it. It was on the DL. I mean, if that would have happened today with social media, half those players would have got been released or sent to the minors or something. It would have been terrible. But
not to mention back then, and granted, they've overcome their addiction struggle. So kudos to Doc and Darryl. But if they would have been in the league today with those substance abuse issues, their careers would have been over already.
Yeah, I mean, it wasn't only Doc and Darryl; it was Keith Hernandez.
Yeah, him too.
There was a lot. I mean, it was suspected Kevin Mitchell was into some stuff, and that's why they traded Kevin Mitchell because they thought Kevin Mitchell was the bad influence and wanted to keep him away from wanted to keep him away from Doc and Daryl. That was probably my generation. That was probably the first trade that really backfired on the Mets that we can recall. There was many after that, like Lenny Dykstra for Juan Samuel, and then putting Juan Samuel in center field. Oops. So there was a lot. After from 1990 on, it was just a shit show. So, just to see, and people just don't appreciate like Keith Hernandez and Gary Carter brought the team because they were already veterans on the other side of their career. Yep. And they gave everything they had left to the Mets because by the time they got to 89, Hernandez and Carter were done. Like they were physically done. I mean, they played for a couple more years each, but they had nothing left to give.
If you look at, I think like Keith hit below 200 his last season in Cleveland, and Gary also barely struggled to be.
Well, he broke his kneecap. Hernandez broke his kneecap that year, so. There was no shot. And the sad thing was because he did get hurt, he got off to a slow start and then he got hurt and he never got a chance to come back. Caused that batting average to drop from 300 to 297. So would he be in the Hall of Fame if he was a 300 hitter? I say probably.
I think Keith Hernandez is Hall of Fame worthy because if you look at the resume, 2 MVPs, one in St. Louis, one in New York. All those gold gloves he won at first base.
11 in a row. Statistically, he's the greatest defensive first baseman in the history of the game. He has a batting title. And honestly, he was one of the most clutch hitters of the 80s.
And I love baseball. Baseball is my favorite sport out of all the major American sports. But I have to go out on a limb and say that when it comes to who's in and who's out in the Baseball Hall of Fame, the baseball is the most self-righteous sport that there is. Like once you do wrong in the eyes of the baseball writers or the gatekeepers of baseball, unless you admit to it when you get caught and you fess up immediately and express remorse, there's no second chance. There's no redeeming yourselves. And we all know for those people watching that don't know, I think being involved in the Pittsburgh trials is what got Keith Hernandez on the outs with the Hall of Fame committee. Granted, there were other people like Willie Stargell and Dave Parker were also in the Pittsburgh trials, and they later ended up getting in the Hall of Fame. But I don't know. I think they've forever held that against Keith.
I think Keith will get there the same way Jeff Kent got in there. Jeff Kent should have been inducted on his first year of eligibility.
Veterans Committee, probably.
He should have been a first ballot Hall of Fame. Outside of Barry Bonds, there's no player in baseball left out of the Hall of Fame that has led his respective positions all time in home runs and slugging.
Yeah, and I'll go on to say this: the next Veterans Committee, I believe, is next year, and there are 2 names on the ballot who deserve to get on. Keith is one of them, and I hate the Atlanta Braves and everything they represent. But I would
Dale Murphy.
But I would be a fool to say Dale Murphy. If you look at Dale Murphy and Robin Yount's numbers career-wise, they're almost the same thing.
Yeah. Dale Murphy had the most hits of his generation.
Yep. So if Robin Yount is in, I feel Dale Murphy should get in, but definitely Keith Hernandez should get in. If Keith doesn't get in, then it's a crime and a travesty.
I mean, you look at the whole thing. Okay, people got so used to certain numbers being automatic. Okay, erase all that gaslighted info that's been put in your brain for the last 40 years of your life, if you're even that old. Okay, the bottom line is that the Hall of Fame is a certain stretch of dominance. It doesn't have to be all-time home run, all-time RBI. Stretch of dominance at your position during your generation. Did you revolutionize the business? Did you change the industry? Keith Hernandez revolutionized and changed how first basemen were looked at because he played first base like a center fielder. Yep. He would be 3 feet.
He always played in.
He would play three. He would literally pick up a bunt in front of the pitcher's mound. How does he get from first base to the pitcher's mound before the pitcher gets down the pitcher's mound? That's how good he was. He would turn with runners on first and second. He would literally turn 3-5-4 or 3-5-1 double plays from third base across the diamond. I remember the one particular game that you saw the video all the time. Keith Hernandez picks up the bunt, throws to third base where Gary Carter is playing third base, and then shoots it over to first base because that was the, if I remember correctly, that was the Eric Davis Ray Knight brawl. So,
it was. Yeah.
So, guys don't do that. Don Mattingly was a great defensive first baseman, but you ask Don Mattingly plainly says and admittedly said that Keith Hernandez was the greatest first baseman he's ever seen in his life. He had a Keith Hernandez pitched in high school. He had a pitcher's arm that played first base. He was very instinctive. He was literally a scouting report in the infield. He didn't need the little things on his wrist or things in his pocket. He literally would yell out to players and outfielders, positioning them where they needed to be because he just had that kind of memory and he knew the tendencies of players. And then he would go over and he was the only first baseman you would see that would go over 3-4 times an inning and chat with the pitcher, just get a little chirp in his ear and go back, literally telling him, hey, pitch inside. This guy likes to pull the ball. We'll just crowd the left side. Like he was that kind of guy. And I think he was told that story too with Jesse Orozco with Kevin Bass. And he said, if you throw him another fastball, we're going to be fighting because this guy can't hit a slider to save his life. And then the Mets clinched the National League championship on Kevin Bass striking out on a slider. Yeah. So the guy, look, everybody sees him now where he's like the happy-go-lucky Keith Hernandez, eating his lollipops, having fun, saying sometimes some stupid crap in the press box. But Keith Hernandez was analytics in a human body. Like he knew everything that people were going to do. And like I said, he revolutionized the position. He changed how first basemen were looked at. He put up just good enough numbers. Like he wasn't hitting 30 home runs, but he was hitting 15 to 20. He was driving home 70 to 90 runs every year. He won 11 straight Gold Gloves. I mean, you look at Ozzie Smith at shortstop. Ozzie Smith wasn't putting up more than 3 home runs a year, but he was the greatest defensive shortstop of his generation. So if you're the best of your generation, how are you not in the Hall of Fame?
Yeah. No, and like I said, I think it's the Pittsburgh trial controversy why they punished Keith. I mean, they've heard stories of
it wasn't the media because I don't think it was really the media so much. I just think was people got a little butthurt.
Yeah.
He did coke, and it was some people got ratted out to stay out of trouble. Everybody did coke in the 80s, but
in the 80s, yep.
But some of those guys ratted other people out, so they didn't want them getting thrown out of baseball. The media, and I have friends that have votes in the Hall of Fame, and we argue all the time, and I tell them all the time, you shouldn't even have that right to vote. You didn't play in the game. You didn't play for Major League Baseball. These people aren't your brothers. You shouldn't be deciding whether they go into the Hall of Fame or not. They give you something to do for a living, writing about them. You shouldn't decide their fate. And it pisses me off because it took so long because Jeff Kent did not get along with the media. Randy Johnson, you couldn't keep him out because his numbers were so sick that you couldn't keep him out, and he hated the media. And I feel it's the reason why Albert Bell is not in the Hall of Fame because he hated the media.
Very surly guy was Albert Bell. Those years in Cleveland were very, very magical for Albert Bell. And then, of course, you got the steroid guys, which, depending on who you talk to, some people say the McGuires and the Sosas, they should get in because they brought baseball back after the strike did in 94.
Sosa, McGuire, Griffey, Ripken, those 4 guys during that era.
And of course, Ripken and Griffey are both in, but
again, if anybody wants to sit there and say, "Oh, Griffey did it clean," you don't know that. Look, everybody
just was never caught.
Right, and look, everybody's a suspect during that era. It doesn't matter who they were. People say, "Oh, Jeff Kent, he was doing steroids, blah blah blah," and then they forget Jeff Kent came from the Blue Jays, went to the Mets,
Then
for
to the
David
Giants.
Cohn, him and Ryan Thompson, for David Cohn, and everybody hated Jeff Kent because it wasn't David Cohn, and of course David Cohn went on to win a World Series with the Blue Jays, so maybe even worse.
Yeah.
But Jeff Kent, before he left, before he was traded with Vizcaino to the Indians, he set the franchise record for the most home runs and RBIs by a second baseman in franchise history. So the guy wasn't a fluke. He was hitting 20 home runs, driving home 70. Like, and this was only his third and fourth year in baseball. Like, this wasn't a fluke. Cleveland was horrible. They put him at third base. That was a mess. He replaced Carlos Baerga, which was a fan favorite. And then him and Vizcaino again, because they were like a tandem package apparently, got traded to San Francisco, replacing Matt Williams. So like you're like really like digging this guy. Like everywhere you send him, like, oh hey, go replace the fan favorite for the last 20 years I've been there. So automatically, people again were hard on him. But he found his niche there because Dusty Baker treated him like a veteran, didn't treat him like a young dope, didn't treat him like a rookie, a kid. There was no hazing allowed. Like none of this shit was allowed that went on in the Mets circus clubhouse. And that's where his career turned around. Yes, it's great to bat sometimes in front of Barry Bonds. Sometimes it's great to bat behind Barry Bonds. Yeah, it doesn't matter. The fact is he put the bat on the ball and, his average went up, his power numbers went up, his RBI numbers went up. Barry Bonds is on base, 70% of the damn time. So that's going to happen. He was still one of the most durable second basemen in baseball. Was he one of the best defensive? No. But he, from year to year, he was top 3 every year, turning double plays. He held this is before, like, you couldn't touch people at second base. Guys were coming in and end your life at second base. And he hung in there, and he was durable, and he played, and he stayed off the IL. And then, eventually he went to Houston. He had a huge second half of Houston, huge postseason for Houston. He went to LA. By the time he went to LA, he was a little banged up. He had another year and a half good seasons left in him. And then he retired at the end of his contract. He could have played. He could have stat compiled. But he was like, no, I'm done. Yeah, like Andrew, no. But, I mean, he didn't want to stat compile. He's like, all right, I'm done. I did enough in this game. I specifically remember the press conference, and they were asking him about the Hall of Fame, and he said, "Look, it's not really important to me." He's like, "I did what I could for baseball. I tried my hardest. I gave it my all. Now I get to spend time with my family." And then it was just so disheartening to have to wait so long for him to go into the Hall of Fame.
Yeah,
and it was just kind of sick. But here's a cool fact. When I said him and Vizcaino. They're the only players to play for 4 different teams to turn a double play to.
Oh my! I didn't even know that. That's a real fun fact.
Yeah, Mets, Indians, San Francisco,
and Houston,
and Astros. Yep.
Houston Astros.
Yeah, they both wound up on the Dodgers, but at different times. Kent already retired, and then 2 years later, Vizcaino wound up on the Dodgers.
And forgive me if my memory is incorrect, but didn't Vizcaino win a 2000 World Series with the Yankees? I think he was on that team, backup.
Yes, he was, along with the 155-year-old, the guy that hit the 16 hopper up the middle that Kurt Abbott couldn't get there against Al Leiter. So yeah, we don't even bring those up.
But but no, Jeff Kent was that 2002 Giants team. They lost in the World Series, but that was a really good team. Jeff Kent batting in the same lineup with Bonds, J.T. Snow, Rich Aurelia, Sean Dunston. Benito Santiago was on that team, even though he was older. So, that people forget how good that Giants team was. 2001, 2002.
You look at the stats of a lot of those teams from, I want to say like 94 to like right before 2000, like 2000.
Mm-hmm.
The offensive numbers of the players were just disgusting.
Yeah. Out of this world. We'll never. I was at the Mets game Saturday. I was talking to a fan behind me, and I told him, I said, "Look, we're probably never going to see a pitcher win 20 games in a season ever again. We're never going to see anybody, any starting pitcher that ever comes in the game ever again, finish with 300 wins or more in a career." And
you might see a relief pitcher win 20 games before you see a starter win.
Yeah,
I mean, Aaron Ashby had 12 wins at the All-Star break.
yeah, no, that's fair in Milwaukee. And then I also said I don't think that any new player that comes into the game going forward will ever get to 3,000 hits again. I think Freddie Freeman is the last active player who will probably get 3,000 major league hits, and he's at what, like 2,600, I believe. So
I don't think he's gonna play long enough to do it.
he would have to play.
His legs are pretty bad.
Yeah, no, the estimate says he would have to play until he's at least 41 in order to do so. But
Yeah.
I mean, if he wants to chase, if he wants to chase 3,000, he very well could. But no, I don't think we'll see any more 3,000. I don't think we'll ever see a guy who bats 300 for his career ever again either. So the game has changed so much because you used to have guys back in the day, and it's funny that this is a Mets show, so Seaver, even Gooden, if they didn't go maybe 7 or 8 innings, probably complete game almost every time out. Now complete games are a complete rarity because you want to save guys' arms. You want to have them avoid Tommy John, so you don't want to overwear anybody else.
Yeah, complete games now is 6-inning rainouts.
Or if you ask Freddie Peralta, his complete game is 5 innings. But we'll talk about him in a bit. But no. And then the last point before we get on to the current Mets, we were talking about '86, and while Frank Cashin put together a championship team, he had a level of hatred after just right that offseason that I don't think has been seen since David Stearns came aboard in the last 2 years. I look at like what he shoot off Ray Knight. Ironically, shoes off Ray Knight to Baltimore. Ray Knight was your World Series MVP in '86, which parallels Pete Alonso. Of course, we didn't win the World Series last year or even get to the playoffs. But to get your fan favorite, well-beloved, longtime first baseman and tell him to, enjoy the offer Baltimore made you and have him leave for nothing when he wanted to stay, because Ray Knight is going on the record, said he only wanted one more year. He just wanted one more year, and he would have retired off into the sunset. And they told him, thanks for coming. Then you get he trades Kevin Mitchell. And the thing about the Kevin Mitchell trade that bothers me, it's not the fact that he said that Kevin Mitchell would be a bad influence on Doc and Darryl, which to me is crazy because it's not like they needed any help in doing what they were doing. But
I don't know if they knew yet what we later found out to stop them too.
Yeah, but it's crazy to me how they trade Kevin Mitchell to the Giants, and all of a sudden this rookie who helped you win a World Series that you just traded in about a year or two's time became the National League MVP.
88, right?
Yeah.
88 won the MVP.
And I don't, and we could take a list of the Mets moves over the years that we could sit down and say in hindsight, damn, maybe we should have held on to him. And, you would have had another MVP caliber play. And I honestly think that if Kevin Mitchell would have stayed and turned into, because he was going to turn into what he turned into in San Francisco.
Yeah.
But had he been here in '88, maybe the Mets surpass the Dodgers and we get back to the World Series.
That's exactly, that was one of my exact points to somebody. I said if the Mets would have held on to Kevin Mitchell, I think that would have been a deciding factor of beating the Dodgers. We pitched well enough to win that series.
Yep.
The Dodgers got a lot of lucky breaks with the Kirk Gibson and Socha with that nonsense home run, and a couple of our pitchers didn't pitch well in that playoff series. Darling had a clunker, so it was the Kevin Mitchell. If he's having an MVP year in '88 and he's on the Mets doing that, it makes that lineup so much more dangerous and so much harder to pitch to. But they did a lot of weird things in '88, and some people say that '88 team was better than the '86 team. Kevin Elster was kind of coming into his own. They still had this grandeur that he was going to hit the power, which didn't happen until I think he went to Texas one year and he found the fountain of juice. And then, Santana was a shell of himself. They literally had really no third baseman. Backman was getting older.
Yeah, Tim Tuffle wasn't himself either.
Yeah, Gary Carter's knees were shot. He was hurt for a big portion of the season. Yeah. Hernandez was out for like 8 weeks during the season. Strawberry and Gooden were deep into their shit, and Mookie Wilson was not getting any younger.
Nope.
Was that Dykstra was gone at that point?
No, Dykstra was gone by that point. Yeah.
Yeah. So we had Juan Samuel on.
Yep. So,
Yeah.
we
had Kevin McReynolds. Kevin McReynolds is one of the most unappreciated freaking players on the Mets. Mets fans never took to him, and that guy was a 25 homer, 20 stolen base, great defensive outfielder, just a freaking rock. And the Mets fans just never gave him a good.
Never gave him a chance. And then Frank Cashin was depicted as a moron for lack of a better term by Mets fans and media for basically shipping off pieces and turning pieces away right after they won, which leads us to the parallels to our current president of baseball operations and general manager David Stearns. I've been calling for David Stearns to get fired from last year, only because, and now I'll preface it with this. I didn't like the Stearns hire from the very moment he was hired, only because, and I'm much more of an old school minded baseball guy. So the fact that his first move as president of baseball operations, he fires Buck Showalter, rubbed me the wrong way immediately. And here's my thing on this, right? Because we know as they move on from Buck, David Stearns' first hire as a Met is Carlos Mendoza, right? Yeah. Carlos Mendoza, no managerial experience prior to managing the Mets, was a bench coach in the Yankees organization, but never really had the reins of the team, full reins of the team. And then Buck Showalter in 2022, Mets win 101 games. 2023, they have a down year, but they start the year with no Edwin Diaz, which your star closer is gone. That's automatically in the back of your mind. Who do I go to try and close out games, which they had David Robertson, who by that point wasn't the David Robertson that we had seen on the Yankees or anywhere else prior.
David Robertson was setting up. It really wasn't closing.
Right. But he had moved into the they closer by committee, but so then you fire Buck after one bad season, after the year before winning 101 games. He had no chance to redeem himself. Mendoza, and I say this again, as much as I love 2024, and I will always forever remember Jose Iglesias and OMG and Grimace and Luis Severino and all these oddball cast-offs that actually helped us. 2024 was a fluke. It was a fluke. I will never sit here and say that the 24 Mets were one of the best teams in baseball because they had the horrid first half. They just caught fire, and the fire didn't go out till they met the Dodgers in the NLCS. Then last year, and mind you, now this is where the regression starts. Last year, best record in baseball in the first half of the season. Horrible trade deadline, which at the time looked okay, pitching-wise. I never was a fan of Cedric Mullins, but missed the playoffs by a game, last game of the season, which, if you know your Mets history, the Marlins on the last day to get in has never fared well for us. And then now this year, we're going to finish last in the National League East. I never thought I would see a Mets.
Might finish last in the National League, period.
Yeah, and if the Rockies, unless the Rockies go on a tear, we're one Rockies win streak away from being last in the National League period. But no, and now look at the regression. And then I feel like David Stearns has committed so many crimes against this organization. Granted, I didn't care that he traded Jeff McNeil. That didn't bother me.
Yeah, me neither.
Letting Edwin Diaz go over $3 million, that bothered me. Obviously, in hindsight, nobody would have ever thought he would have had the elbow injury and he'd be out for most of the year. So kind of dodged the bullet there. However, if it was under regular circumstances, I'd be upset that he let Diaz go for $3 million. Trading Nimmo, say what you want about Brandon Nimmo. That was a guy. He's the only guy I've ever seen in baseball, period. Draws a walk and runs full speed to first base. The guy had hustle and the guy had heart.
He did, but he also had the tendency to strike out a ton, and I've seen chickens with better arms.
Well, yeah, no, that's a fair point, but
I wasn't mad.
no,
No, I was not
here's
mad at him getting traded. Because look,
I wasn't mad at him getting
everybody
traded.
everybody still has this vision that Brandon Nimmo is still 25 years old because he
No,
looks like it.
and he
10 stolen bases at a Semien, and he plays his Gold Glove or close to that Gold Glove second base. We're going to be fine. It's going to help the pitchers with the middle infield. We have a history of issues of turning double plays, and I Semien should fix that problem. And in theory, it should have fixed that problem. Of course, he gets up to a slow start. He gets hurt, comes back, still just chugging along terribly. Occasionally, he pops one here and there. It is what it is at this point. Um, Also, didn't help that Lindor was out and down a lot this year.
Yep.
And Lindor is slowing down. People don't want to admit it, but Lindor is slowing down. Okay. I was full for trading Francisco Lindor at the deadline because the longer he stays here, the more value he's going to lose on the market.
Correct.
And there's teams like the Yankees who would love Lindor at shortstop over Volpe and Mr. Time Clock Manipulator. And or there's other teams. I mean, trust me, the Dodgers would have put Mookie Betts back in the outfield if they could get out Lindor.
well, you see the move the Yankees made at shortstop. They went and got Luis Garcia from the Nationals, who's actually
he's not a good defense. He's not a good defensive player though. They also got Heliot Ramos, who's a terrible defensive outfielder.
Yeah,
terrible.
Yeah, no, that was more for the bat because they've been having trouble replacing Judge's production. But
again, now Cashman's going to use the old New York Mets motto. Oh, when we get Giancarlo Stanton and Aaron Judge back, that'd be like a trading deadline pickup.
Brian Cashman, say what you will about that guy. He is the longest tenured hobo in baseball right now.
He's definitely got dirt on the Steinbrenners. How do you guys
has to be? He's figured in, as they would say in the wrestling biz. But as far as the Semien Nimmo trade, what bothered me, I've always been my motto is I have to look at the back of the baseball card.
Right.
When you look at Nimmo last year compared to Semien, and I said this on the show in the offseason, my issue was there's a 50-point differential in batting average you're losing going from Nimmo to Semien, Juan Soto. They will boo Juan Soto. Yeah. Every time Juan Soto goes back to Yankee Stadium, massive jeers. I guarantee you next month when the Orioles come back, Pete Alonso is going to get maybe a 5 to 10 minute standing ovation.
He will, and it's deservedly so because he was a product of the New York Mets organization. So he was one of their own. Juan Soto was never a part of the Yankees minor league organization, which we always made me wonder like why they were so obsessed with him. And then they would just make stupid comments regarding that he had to leave because he wanted to be the man and Judge is the man and blah 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 blah. It was look whatever. People say dumb shit. People say dumb stuff.
One thing about that fan base, they don't look at facts. If you follow Juan Soto through the entirety of his career, he's never been the man anywhere. He was on the Nationals. That was Ryan Zimmerman's clubhouse.
It was Ryan Zimmerman's clubhouse, but he was the man in that lineup because Hopper was already gone.
Yeah, no, but as far as being a leader or the face of the team,
he's never going to be a leader.
No,
he's just not verbally aggressive. He's a rah guy, but quiet rah.
Yeah, like he'll let his play do the talking. He's not really going to be out there the face of the media. He went to San Diego. That's Fernando Tatis and Manny Machado both.
Yeah.
He went to the Yankees. It's Judge. He comes to the Mets. It's Lindor. And I think he's comfortable not being the focal point or the face of the team.
I have no problem with Juan Soto as Juan Soto. Like, I have no problem with that.
I tell people this.
The only problem I have is the lack of hustle sometimes, but it's not just him. I snapped the other day about Lindor when he scored from first base on a ball that was on the right field wall, and it cost us the run, and it wound up that wound up being a very important run.
Yep.
But you just can't do that. You can't be the leader. I just felt like Lindor once Cohen said he wasn't putting a C on anybody. I felt like Lindor, he could have been the franchise leader in everything.
Yep.
You know, he could have sucked it up and just said, "Hey, you know what, Scott Boras, get your ass in there, get something done, make something happen. Here's the deadline to do it. Then we can go somewhere else." It didn't really happen. It was just like, give them a call. Oh, they didn't answer. Okay, you know what? We'll go shopping else. And
Yeah.
that's the way Scott Boras is. Scott Boras bucks the
He's all about
Mets
the money.
every opportunity he gets.
Yeah. And he does his job well to make every last
He
penny
does.
for his guy.
He does. Like I'm looking at Alonso's numbers now, and look, right now they're down compared to last year, and he's playing in a very hitter-friendly ballpark. He's down 20 points in batting average. He's on pace to hit 6 less home runs. He got 23 home runs. He had 38 last year. He had 126 RBIs last year. He's got 69 this year. And he's actually, if it's even possible, his defensive metrics is worse this year than last year, which we knew he was going to be a defensive liability, and he's not going to want to be a DH anytime soon. So that was another problem that was going to be an issue with Stearns, because Stearns is all about run prevention. And yes, I know Polanco, I know all about that nonsense.
And that's another bone of contention, because you look at who we've put at first base all year. We've had Polanco for 2 games. Then it was Jared Young.
Jared Young's played a phenomenal first base.
Yeah, no, and he's a left fielder by trade.
Yeah.
And then, you have Mark Vientos, who's been god awful defensively, both at first and at his natural position at third. And then Brett Beatty has been interchangeable everywhere. He's played third, he's played outfield, he's played second base.
He's the Jeff McNeil. That's basically what he is.
Yeah, and I don't know. I just feel like David
baseball.
Stearns,
if anybody's played baseball at a high level, and I'm not talking about like just little league, like I'm talking about travel ball, collegiate ball, semi-pro,
minor leagues, yeah,
anything like that. Baseball is not only just mental when it comes to playing and preparing, but it's mental when it comes to the comfort level. So when you have, in this case, Brett Beatty, who is left field, right field, third base, first base, DH, these guys can't get comfortable in their own heads because they don't even know what they're doing from day to day. And that does have a lingering effect on their play, because their mind is constantly racing of, where am I playing today? Who's pitching? How can I handle this situation? Oh crap, so-and-so is on this team. I hope you're not putting me in right field. And this guy's a dead pull lefty, and I'm going to be, playing balls off the wall all day long. That's not the confidence you want in your players. Yeah, they're going to say all the right things, and the coaches are going to say the right things, but it's just like the movie Moneyball. Like Scott Hatteberg played first base. Hey, watch, teach him how to first base. It's not hard. It's extremely hard. So, so, if you saw Jeff McNeil won a batting title when he played predominantly second base.
Yep.
As soon as he played other positions that year, but predominantly played second base. The following year, when they started moving him to the corner outfield even more, the decline started.
Yep.
Okay. Yep. And then he's a hothead, so he gets into his own head, and then, poof, things happen with him. He gets mouthy, he screams and yells, shit with Reese Hoskins and all that other crap. That happened. I felt like him going to Oakland was perfect, because there's no expectations with the A's starting the Athletics. There's no expectation with the Athletics. Nobody's got a spotlight on him. The media can give a crap about the team, so he can fly under the radar. And
he plays in a little league ballpark, for crying
right. So, did you see was it a couple days ago when they were down 2 and he bunted, and Kenley Jansen wanted to sort of fight with him?
Yeah, I saw that. Yeah.
What is wrong with baseball players? You're down 2. He put the freaking he put a run in scoring position and tried to become the tying run on base.
Yeah.
Or guys having a heart attack because someone bunted in the 6th inning because he had a perfect game going on in the 6th inning. This is not Kurt Schilling with 2 outs in the 9th. 6th inning.
The culture has changed, my friend. I don't know if you saw us while we're on the topic of Jeff McNeil. I forgot who the Athletics were playing, and I guess the catcher. They had called a strike, and the catcher accidentally tapped his helmet. The umpire didn't see it. Jeff McNeil,
Jeff,
he
ratted him out. I saw that.
The call actually got reversed, so he didn't even
that was great.
Challenge.
I know people were like destroying him in the comments of the video, like, oh, I'm like, bro, that's freaking smart. That's high baseball IQ.
Yeah, you're down. You got to try to get those runs in. So, no, but as far as like David Stearns, like, let me ask you before we get into the trade deadline, what's your opinion on Stearns? Are you a Stearns supporter?
Okay, so you and I had this conversation in
Facebook comments, yeah.
In comments. So I said coming into this year that this is now David Stearns' team. Okay. He wanted his team. He wanted his footprint on this team. He wanted his players. He wanted to do it his way. And I said he has 2 seasons. That was my exact comment to you. He has 2 seasons to get this train on the tracks. Season 1, we derailed immediately. So he's got 1 more year. I know that his contract is more than a year, and Cohen has already said that he's not firing a guy that he's paying $20 million to be the president of baseball operations and GM. So whatever, I'm probably going to be stuck with him for another 3 more years?
Well,
2
his
more
first
years?
year was in 24, and he has a 5-year deal. This is year 3, so he's got next season and the season after.
Yeah. So if the Mets go out and they make significant moves in the offseason, but still go with Ewing and Benj and Robert in the outfield, which I can totally live with as long as Robert stays on the damn field, you need to fix third base. You need to fix second base.
First base too.
And first base. So my whole thing was to kind of like chip into the deadline. The Mets should have moved Francisco Alvarez to the Yankees for Jason Dominguez. And Dominguez could have played the outfield, and Ewing could have played second base.
Yep, because a lot of people don't know A.J. Ewing is second baseman by trade coming up.
Right.
So
now you got Dominguez, Robert, and Benj, and you got you. Now you're solid again, providing that Robert stays on the field.
To that question, Dominguez has struggled. He's had documented struggles in the outfield. Balls going over his head.
But he's actually better this year than he has been in the past 2 years. He's playing a little more confidence. I know it's ball for New York, but the Yankees have a bigger microscope on them.
Yep. Mm-hmm.
Even though they don't spend more money than the Mets, it's kind of weird how that went the other way. But higher expectations. So him coming to the Mets, I think, with lower expectations, and not a trade where the Mets fans will be like, "Oh my God, we gave up freaking Pete Alonso for your bum ass." He won't have that problem.
Right.
He'll come here with mediocre expectations, and he can only go up from there. Obviously, that didn't happen. We still got Alvarez, who leads the planet and pass ball for the 2nd straight year. But anyway, they could have solidified themselves with Dominguez, Robert, and Benj, had Ewing at second base, and then they could have fixed third base and first base and lived with Alvarez and Torrens behind the plate. If they traded for Dominguez, then you have Torrens for the rest of the year, and then you either promote within for your catcher or you make a move for a catcher, because there's going to be plenty of free agent catchers out there. If you see all the catchers that got traded today, they're all 1 or 2 years left in their contract. So, you go for the guys that are free agent. You go after the Joey Barts, who just got moved to the 3rd team this year. Joey Bart notoriously just destroys left-handed pitching. You could have went after Adley Rushman. You could have went after
Adley went to the Red Sox. Yep.
Yeah. There was a lot. There was a lot out there. Murphy came back from the Braves. You could have made a move to bring in Murphy, and then they would have kept Joey Bart.
Yeah.
But because Murphy came back, they traded Joey Bart because they didn't have room for him because Drake Baldwin's their guy. So,
and here's the thing:
there's little things they could have did today. Like, look, they got a haul of players.
Yeah, haul of prospects.
They did. So, to answer your question, because I made it so drag out, Stearns, I feel if the Mets come back next year and they put up anything remotely close to what they're doing this year, and I'm talking about like within 10 games, even if it's 10 more wins and that's it, he's going to get fired, regardless of what Steve Cohen says. There's nobody going to show up. Nobody's going to show up to the ballpark.
It's got to be postseason or bust next season for Stearns. And it's funny you mentioned getting people to the ballpark. Normally, in baseball history, baseball is notorious for gate giveaways. So whether it's a bobblehead, a pack of Topps cards, replica jersey, anything.
Wait. Are you talking about the replica jersey that's coming up in a couple of days?
Oh, the Peralta one that they got to figure out what to do with. Donate those to the Salvation Army. But
it's gonna go to that meme of the little black kids dancing. It says, "Here comes the Cowboy Super Bowl shirt."
But it's amazing to me that even bobbleheads and all these other type of giveaways are no longer enough to put butts in the seats in Citi Field. That's how bad it's gotten.
Well, first of all, half of those people that go there don't even stay for the game.
They just go buy to the bobblehead and come out.
Yeah, they'll buy like 10 of the cheapest general admission tickets they can. They'll walk in, get their bobble, stick it in their bag, exit, come back around, and they'll just keep doing it. Or they'll come with a group of people and they'll keep doing it. And then they go back in the parking lot and they go home.
Yep.
Like when I worked for the Staten Island Yankees, we had the Chin-Ming Wong. Remember him, Chin-Ming Wong?
The pitcher.
They had the bobblehead with the real thread hair. It was kind of creepy. And he was there and nobody even stayed for the game. Like it was a sellout. But there was about 1,200 people. Now that stadium held 7,171 fans. And there was about 1,200 people in the stand, but it sold out because they sold all those general admission $7 tickets.
Yep.
And then people were going in the front gate, out the back gate, back online, in the front gate, just doing this.
Just with the bobblehead.
And the shits were on eBay before they even got in their car. It was absolutely insanity. And then he did it for Robbie Cano Day too, and he stayed and he was signing autographs and stuff like that. Let's put it this way. We brought Molina to the Staten Island Yankees, and the crowd was bigger for her than Chin-Ming Wong and Robbie Cano because people actually stayed to see her, where they were just getting their bobblehead and saying, bye.
and now it's getting even worse because what Steve Cohen said, everybody who has a ticket to a game for the rest of the year, you now get a $10 concession voucher with your ticket. And even that's not enough to...
No, because that's only going to pay for one Pepsi. Well, Coke, sorry.
It's crazy because they're trying to come up with all these gimmicks late in the season to try and hook people, and it's not and as much as we love the '86 team, even that wasn't enough for the nostalgia. Wasn't enough to put the stadium.
So that's the other thing that kind of bothers me and it's not just the Mets. All franchises do it when they have these like these games where they honor certain groups or legends or even local celebrities and things like that, and they do it so early before the game where anybody who's gone to a baseball game, nobody goes early. Only the season ticket holders who are grilling in the parking lot. And then they come and they'll sit and they watch BP, and then they'll find a nice place, shady spot, and they'll relax. And like I had season tickets at Shea for 6 years, man. I've spent more times on my ass in Shea Stadium than anywhere else during the summer.
Yeah.
I had them from 96 to 2001. And we would go if the game was 7:10, we were there at 2:00 in the afternoon. If the game was a 1:30 game, we were there at 9 in the morning. We would literally wait outside, waiting for the parking company to open the gate because we got there way too early. They're like, you can't come in yet. And they would like open the gate and then we'd go in. Like we would go because it's like to us, it was a destination trip. It was an all day event. And even when the game was over, we'd take our sweet ass time walking
Oh yeah.
back to the car. We'd be bullshitting, ragging on the opposing team's fans or whatever case it was. You met Yankee, we'd, be doing our ragging back and forth. And then we would literally wait for like 70% of the people to leave the parking lot before we just decide to get in the car and go. Because why get in your car, move 6 feet, and then wait online for an hour?
Yeah.
I'd rather just sit outside in the car and just relax, listen to the game update on the fan through the car radio.
Yep. And here's my pregame routine because I have a half season package. Normally, Saturday's a 4:00 game. I usually get in the neighborhood about around 1:00. Usually park the car like somewhere on Northern Boulevard or 34th Avenue because that $50 price tag Cohen's got.
Yeah, that's crazy.
Even the season holders don't get a break on that, believe it or not. You get a discount that'll bring it back to 40. But
yeah, when we had tickets at Shea, we paid 30.
Yeah, no. So park the car, give me enough time to walk to the stadium. Got to walk across where the Whitestone Expressway meets the Grand Central. Hop across there with the Danger Dash, and then it'll take you behind Citi Field. And I usually go in through the left field gate, but like it doesn't even. You don't even have an incentive. Like there's nothing to be excited about this season. Like I tell fans all the time that I talk to that I'm around. I'm like, if it wasn't for the young guys like the Nolan McLeans, the Zach Thorntons now, Christian Scott, AJ Ewing, Carson Bench, I wouldn't have anything to look forward to in watching this team. Because 9 times out of 10, you go to a game, they're either going to lose badly or they're going to come within a run. Either the pitching is going to be good and the offense is flat, or the offense is good and the pitching is terrible. It's like the same story all season. But hopefully, the Mets got a big haul of prospects, lottery tickets, as I like to call them. And I always say this about prospects. Prospects are always going to be. Prospects are like boxes of chocolate, to quote Forrest Gump. You never know what you're going to get.
Yeah.
And when you're a team like the Mets that's selling at the deadline, you're never going to get. You're going to give up major league talent to get major league hopefuls back. When you're the buyer, you give up the prospects and you get the names up. When you're the seller, you give up the names to get the unknown. So the Mets had no choice here, and. The Mets, and I said this last week, I said in a week's time, I expect 50% of this bullpen to be gone. And look what they gave up. Brooks Raley has been traded to Philadelphia.
Yep.
Luke Weaver, who I thought because AJ Minter and Brazaban and Raley were gone, I thought Luke Weaver would have been the one guy who would have been safe.
I thought he would have been saved only because he has another year of control.
That and the fact that our ever so wonderful president of baseball operations he says we're going to compete in 2027. So I thought if the others go, Weaver was going to be safe. I was proven wrong.
But Gary Cohen and Ron Darling actually covered this when they were talking about this.
Yep.
And they said, really, pitching is such a dime a dozen position.
Yeah.
Luke Weaver can have the year he's having this year and then turn around and have a 4 ERA and want to get traded again next year.
Yeah.
And you never know what you're going to get with these guys. So you kind of got to bring in who you think is going to work and then pick through them and sort through them and ride the hot ones and then try to bring in stronger arms for the second half so you don't get, depleted by the All-Star break. It's the bullpen is probably the most trickiest and hardest to build in baseball because the days of having a relief pitcher who is absolutely dominant for 6 to 8 years is way over.
Yep. And you talk about what Ron and Gary said on the broadcast, and it goes back to I don't know if you said you listened to the fan and Evan Roberts. I listen to Evan Roberts a lot. And he brought up the point that, keep in mind relievers are very up and down. You get a reliever, he's
Yeah.
lights out this year. Next year, he may be a dud. And then I'm thinking about Luke Weaver. The Yankee fans were ready to run him out of town last year.
Yeah.
Because of how bad he was. And he was also kind of bad to start this year. And then he had that, I think it was a 24-game no runs allowed streak that helped his ERA fall under 2 this year.
I think it was 24 no runs, and then it was 26 earned runs, innings of earned runs.
Yep.
Which ended with a home run.
26.
But if you also look at his career before he went to the Yankees, he was a mediocre, maybe B-tier reliever. He went to the Yankees and turned his career around, and he had some dominant seasons, especially when their closer got hurt. He was plugged into the closer role. Then he got hurt.
Yep.
The Yankees wanted to run him out of town when he came back from his injury, and he wasn't effective when he got hurt, and he came back. Then he wasn't effective. So then when we signed him, he signed all the former Yankees, and then all of a sudden he started pitching lights out. Then it was like, oh, well, I guess he was still hurt. I'm like, bro, like it can't happen both ways. I'm like,
no,
but I mean, he could get traded right now and stink it up. I mean, we had that. I mean, what Ryan Helsley? Yeah, exactly.
Last year, Helsley and Gregory Soto. I was very, especially Helsley, because Helsley was having a lights out year in St. Louis before he got traded.
I mean, you could go back, to friggin' JJ Puts. I mean, you could keep. That was another guy the guy was throwing 102 miles an hour, popping the glove. You can hear it from the other side of the spring training facility. He was lighting it up for the Marlins, who stunk, and then he came to the Mets and couldn't get anybody out.
It's crazy how a change of scenery will either make somebody better or make somebody worse. But yeah, this bullpen, a lot of turnover. I'll start with AJ Minter, who got traded a couple of days before the deadline. He got sent to the Twins, and he got Benny Agbayani's son, Bruin.
Yeah, saw that.
And Billy Amick, who actually had a 2-hit game in his first game for Double-A Binghamton a couple of days ago. And I've been asked several times on Facebook what I think of the trade. And honestly, as crazy as it sounds, I have no opinion. Only because for what AJ Minter, you got to think about it.
AJ Minter is a veteran lefty reliever, the last of his breed, of his it was 37, 38.
Yeah.
But then there's all those months where you got to work out and get your body ready for those 162 games.
Yep.
He didn't have that. So his shoulder was probably like this walking into the locker room. That's why it was so impressive with Brooks Raley that like he came back throwing harder. I mean everybody does that to Tommy John, but he's not a spring chicken. Yeah. But he was very effective against righties and lefties. And I want to give kudos. I don't know if it's why they did it, but I got to give kudos to the Mets that he was a guy that loved being here. He moved his family to New York. They loved the Mets. The franchise took care of him. He said that many, many times. And they sent him to the Phillies where he doesn't have to pick up and relocate his family.
When it comes to Brooks Raley, I'll be very honest. I am not a fan of helping out the division rival. I will be very honest when I tell you that. Good for Brooks Raley. He's in a better situation. He'll probably pitch meaningful innings the rest of the season.
Yeah.
But I've never been a fan of sending a guy to the division rival who we're supposed to hate. It's similar to
But I'd rather send him to the Phillies than I would send them to the Braves. I feel like the Braves
are more of our rival than the Phillies, yeah.
Are more of our rival, even though the Phillies say that we're their rival. But if you want to go by historical factors, it's going to piss off a whole bunch of people in it. Doesn't matter who you send to Philly, it's Don Mattingly, and he's never going to win a World Series.
Yikes. That's a hot take and a half there. Yeah, he didn't even get one as a player, but that's funny.
Or with Toronto, he lost in the World Series last year. So.
Yep. And my thing is this: this trade reminded me, and granted, two different players, two different stages of their career, but in 2018 when the Mets sold, we had a over the hill Jose Bautista, Joey Bats. We shipped him at the deadline to the Phillies, and that was the last year of his career. But yeah, I've never been a fan of helping the division rival. And then if you look at the haul of what we got for Brooks Raley, not really. I was not really impressed by that haul. We got the literal bottom of the barrel prospect for.
What do you think you're going to get for a 38-year-old journeyman lefty specialist that literally is going to pitch the 2 or 3 batters top every third game?
I mean, still, yeah, I get it, but I mean, if you're going to give up something, at least, and granted, we're the selling team. The selling team is never going to have the leverage in these situations, but we couldn't get any. And then you know what? I'm not even surprised because again.
But what happens if we, with argument's sake, let's flip it around. What happens if we got somebody bigger? A couple of years, they come up here and they just Alex Ochoa. Not good.
Not in Miami.
When the Mets got him.
Nope.
And then his first year here, he was all over the place. The last half of last season and first half of this season, Rosenblatt was a totally different pitcher. And you kind of got to give credit where credit is due and say, all right, maybe they're doing something because their bullpen was still good. Outside of Devin Williams, occasionally, doing Devin Williams things.
Yeah.
Weaver was good. Rosenblatt was good. Minter was good. Raley was good. The guys that would come up and pitch 2 games and then get sent down or released. I don't count anybody like that. They had a very solid a bullpen. So I'm kind of confident that their pitching labs are going to be able to move these kids up that have the live on.
Well, this is also the same pitching lab that thought that moving Kodai Senga to the bullpen would have made a difference, but I kid.
They didn't really have a choice. They didn't really have a choice.
I kid.
They're paying this guy $1 gazillion, and they're like, we can't send him down because he's got the clause in the contract where he has to agree to a demotion.
Down, yeah.
So, I guess because they, with the Japanese heritage, they didn't want to insult him. It would be embarrassing. Whatever the case may be, I would have sent his ass packing. But they didn't really have a choice. And, it's so frustrating because he'll go 2 innings where it's like, oh, he's back. He's doing his thing. And then 5 hits and 3 runs later, the next inning, you're like, all right, well, there went that.
Yep. And then, so you're okay with the Raley trade?
I am, yeah.
Okay, fair enough.
I'm not, to be honest with you, I'm not disappointed in really any of the trades. I'm a little disappointed in trades that weren't.
All right, and we'll get to the trades that weren't in a bit. Speaking, you brought up Huascar Brazoban. He goes to the White Sox. We actually get back a decent haul for Brazoban. We get right-handed relief pitcher Gabe Davis. Gabe Davis, who was, I think, he was number 18 in the White Sox farm system. Who ironically was an Oklahoma State teammate of both Nolan McLean and Carson Benj in college. He's now in Double-A. And then we also received Zach Franklin, who, according to scouting reports, they say that he will be ready for the big leagues sooner rather than later. They say he's a near big league reliever. He struck out 60 batters in 45 1/3 innings in AAA this season. Anytime you have way more strikeouts than innings pitched, that's always a good thing to me.
Yeah.
Like you said, Brazoban, we got him for cheap in 24 at the deadline, ironically. 2 years later, he goes at the deadline. He was very good this year. He was good for the first half of last year before he and Reed Garrett fell off of a cliff.
Yeah.
But
again, you can blame that on OVU.
Yeah, you can blame that on. Yeah, and I said it. There were 4 pitchers in particular last season who were overused, and it would be Garrett, who obviously had Tommy John in the offseason, Brazoban, Clay Holmes, and David Peterson. All 4, I think, suffered from arm fatigue after a while on our pitching staff. But no, I like the profile on Franklin.
And I think you're going to see Franklin probably in a couple of weeks.
You think in a couple of weeks? I'm thinking of something early next season.
He's pitching in AAA right now. Their season ends early.
That's true.
So
bring him up
you're
as a
most
September
likely
call-up.
going to see him by the end of August.
Yeah, that's reasonable. Like I said, he's got 60 Ks and 45 and a third, and the scouting report on him is that it was just a matter of if and not when. I mean, of
Yeah.
when and not if. So they say he's big league ready. And again, Davis, they're saying that his stuff looks good in Double-A. I don't mind that. Also, Brazoban is a weird case because he's an older pitcher. He's 36 years old and still has about, I think, 3 more years of team control. So, he's 36, but he's not pitching. Like most pitchers you find at 36 years old, they're starting to decline.
Yeah.
Like my good friend Alfredo Flores in the comments talking about Craig Kimbrell here. No, I don't want Kimbrell back.
No.
But
I mean, I have no problem bringing Kimball back and then sending him to Triple A, and having him
mentor the
kind
kids.
of mentor, especially like Franklin, somebody like that. Then you want to bring him in as a body, an arm, and a mentor, and then at the end of the season he'll become a free agent. I have no problem doing that because at this point he's only getting the Major League Baseball minimum, and that's being paid by like 14 of.
Yeah, and honestly, and I said this when we released him, he's had a great career, future Hall of Famer, nothing left to prove, Rookie of the Year. I think he was the reliever of the year 7 times, World Series champion. If he retired today, he has nothing left to prove, nothing to be ashamed of.
Yep.
But I don't want the man back on our club. But yeah, Brazoban. And you know what? He also had a good World Baseball Classic. But usually you have guys who are 36 years old, their arms start to. But it's like he's also started playing baseball later in life. So, he's not declining as most normal relievers at this age would. And Chicago's contending right now. They're battling for a wild card spot. So, Brazoban is one thing that Chicago did not have and that they needed was bullpen help. And they addressed it because they sent Sir Anthony Dominguez out of town, our old friend from Philadelphia, sent him out of town and went ahead and got Brazoban. So clearly they see some value there. Also on the trade block, this one I like too. Luke Weaver going to the Pirates. We talked about Luke Weaver earlier. And again, I was shocked that he went because Minter and Brazoban both went and Rayleigh went. So I figured, all right, Weaver's safe, but he's not. But look at the haul back. Sammy Stafura, who was Pittsburgh's, I believe, number 2 prospect in their pipeline. Am I reading that right? Yeah. Sammy Stafura, who was a local kid from upstate New York out in Cortland. He split time between single A, high A with a 960 OPS and a 20 home run. Sorry, he was the Pirates' 9th rated prospect, not 2nd. 9th rated prospect. And ironically, he's a shortstop. So what this is telling me is that they're preparing for life post Francisco Lindor. And
or they're going to ask Francisco Lindor to move to second base, and they bring this kid up and they let him grow in about 2 or 3 years at shortstop, and let Lindor move his by that time his aging legs over to second base.
Yep, and the intriguing thing about Stafura, his ranking in the Pittsburgh farm system translates to the Mets. He left Pittsburgh as number 9. He comes to the Mets, and our updated pipeline, he is now number 10. So, again, power hitting shortstop, right-hander. From the footage that I've pulled of him from the MLB film room, he's got to bulk up a bit. He's a scrawny kid. But, of course, he's only 21 years old. That's going to come with age. But yeah, no, I expect maybe about another 2 to 3 years we might see him in the bigs.
Possible. I mean, it just depends on how quick he shoots up the system.
Yep, definitely we'll see him probably in a major league camp in spring training, if there is a spring training in 2027.
Yeah, that's a whole different conversation.
That's a whole different conversation. But a 960 OPS, he's tearing it up in A-ball. But again, A-ball is A-ball. But no, I'm actually pretty, like, if you're preparing for the future, that's a good move. It's a bad move if you're telling your fans we plan to compete next season and you give up arguably the best reliever in your bullpen. But and then,
they had to get a haul for him because the main thing was he's got another year of control.
Yeah.
So he's going to be, the Pirates are going to give it a run, and they'll have Weaver to help them do that. the thing with the Pirates is that they go into the off season and they don't strategically do their free agency signings well. You can very easily see Weaver get traded before the season even starts.
Yep. Here's my thing, Kevin, and maybe I'm just wrong. If I'm Stearns and I am hell bent on saying we're going to compete next season, giving up everybody else who I gave up today and over the weekend, I would have kept Weaver. And then let's say we're out of the hunt by next year's trade deadline, then I would have flipped him because he's a pending free agent. He'd have been a rental somewhere else. Pittsburgh is surprisingly better than they've been in past years this year, but I don't see them. I don't think this is a move that's going to get them over the hump. In my limited watchings of Pirates baseball this season, I think they need more of an extra bat more than a bullpen arm. But you know,
but remember, it's not the best team in the playoffs that wins. It's the hottest team in the playoffs that wins.
Yep. Very, very true. Here was the big move that I absolutely loved. So, of course, I was lobbying for us to keep Clay Holmes. He has a player opt-in, or opt-out, I should say, after this season, but we all knew he was going to opt out.
Yeah, they fully expected him to opt out.
Yep, but Clay Holmes and Tyrone Taylor. Now, Tyrone Taylor was putting on a show for the last 2 weeks.
Yeah.
He probably said, this is my chance to get out of here. let me audition for all the other teams in the league, and let me do. And was hitting for power, which was crazy. Tyrone Taylor's not a power guy. Sent those two to the Chicago Cubs, who earlier in the season we sent David Peterson to, and ended up getting the number 2 prospect in the Cubs system, Jefferson Rojas, another infielder. Jefferson Rojas out of the Dominican Republic, who's hitting so far this minor league season 270, 15 home runs with an 800 OPS in 91 games in Double-A. So he's not at Triple-A yet, but Double-A. Clay Holmes, of course, at a $12 million option. If he's smart, he'll opt out. He's guaranteed to get much more money than he's making now. He was signed for 3 years, $33 million. I think he's going to probably get 3 and maybe around the area of like 54.
Now, there's a still, because he has the option and he opts out, and if he signs elsewhere, is there still a draft pick compensation?
Yes. So the Cubs would get the draft pick now, instead of the Mets. And then of course Tyrone Taylor he has 1 more year of team control.
He was one of the guys that I was kind of hoping he would hold on to.
Yeah.
Because, like I said, Robert, with his prone to injury, you wanted kind of that veteran presence for those young outfielders.
Yep.
You wanted, plus you saw he was having a lot of fun out there with those kids, with Benz and Ewing, and they were covering Juan LaGarrette territory for the death.
Yeah.
So he was having a lot of fun. So, I mean, obviously, he'll want to get traded. He'll have a chance to win. But I would not be surprised if the Mets inquire about him in the offseason, or if there is a 2027 or 8.
So you think the Mets may pull a Aroldis Chapman, where the Yankees trade Chapman to the Cubs at the 16 deadline, and then he comes back in 17 as a free agent?
Yeah, I can see that. I mean, he's just that kind of player. He's always got a smile on his face. He's a good veteran presence. At this point of his career, he's still a Gold Glove caliber fielder. He's got a great arm. Playing in between those kids, he can actually take some wear and tear off his legs because these kids covered so much more ground. So, Juan Soto eventually is going to be back in the outfield mix, DH or outfield. And, I still think Ewing's going to wind up at second base.
Yeah. And it's funny that you're so pro Robert, because I can't wait to get rid of the guy.
I wanted him traded at the deadline. I did.
And I did too. But my thing about Robert, he was so unavailable. Who's going to take a guy that's been hurt all year? I figured him and Polanco were never.
Well, the Mets would have had to pay for like 60% of his remaining contract to get rid of him, and I think they probably figure ride them out, get something out of what they pay. But I can very easily see Luis Robert pulling a Bernard Gilkey and just having this monster career year, and then the Mets extending him, and then he's just gonna suck.
My biggest thing with Robert, and I've always liked Robert back from when he was on the White Sox. I still maintain to this day that the 2021 to 22 White Sox with him and Eloy Jimenez and Yoan Moncada and Tim Anderson in his prime, that was a very dangerous top of the lineup.
Eloy Jimenez is another guy that's handsy.
Yeah, no, well, he got knocked out for being handsy.
Yeah.
And Yasmani Grandal was on that team too, and those teams made the playoffs under Tony La Russa. And I've always liked Luis Robert. I always said that a change of scenery, because he vocally said it last season. I don't want to be here in Chicago anymore. They flirted with the Mets last season. The White Sox did in trying to get something at the deadline. No trade was ultimately made, and that's what made us pivot to go get Cedric Mullins, which was a disaster in and of itself. But I figured the change of scenery would have did Robert good. But one thing that worries me about him, it's the type of injury. It's not an oblique. It's not a soft tissue. While granted, soft tissue injuries like what Soto is going through this year, they're scary. But when you have herniated discs and fluid building up in your back, I don't care if they say that you're ready to play again. You're never going to be the same. The same type of injury that Don Mattingly got his career shortened by. So, David Wright, another one who had back issues and spinal stenosis.
Ralph Kiner.
Yep, Ralph Kiner too.
So, Ralph Kiner had an injury that's perfectly fixed with surgery, over an overnight surgery. Now ended his career.
Ended his career, and so many guys have had devastating back injuries in baseball, and never were the same. So that's what worries me about Robert. He does have a club option after this year. And honestly, if I'm David Stearns, because I would try to either trade him or not pick up his club option. I would say
you can if you're not going to trade him, you might want to plug him into the DH role so he's not running around in the outfield putting strain on his back.
If you plug him in the DH role, what do you do with Polanco? Because I don't want Polanco at first base.
Polanco is going to be
Polanco back at third. If Bichette
he's going to be a pinch hitter up there.
Really, $20 million pinch hitter?
Yeah. Look, it is what it is. At this point, why even look at the salary? He's already half paid. So
yeah.
So I mean, he's a veteran guy. Put him on the bench. Let him fill in occasionally at first base, second base, DH. On a Sunday, spelling somebody the day off. You're gonna put Soto on left. You're gonna put. I would still like Soto on left, Benjamin right. Go out and get yourself a center fielder. Put Ewing at second base. You got Lindor at short. If Bichette decides to return with his option, you put him at third base. If he decides not to return, then you need a new third baseman. I don't feel or see or want Mark Vientos anywhere on the playing diamond. I don't even want him on the bench as a DH, because then it's just you have two Polancos on the bench, and you don't need that.
Well, here's the funny thing. You mentioned Mark Vientos. He's eligible for arbitration for the first time this season, and I don't think the Mets should deal with him in arbitration. Let him go. Him and Brett Beatty. Yeah. Let them go. You know what?
I'm actually surprised Brett Beatty's still on this team, because I think it was the Detroit Tigers were very interested in him.
Yeah, that was the rumor I heard too. But if I had to keep one of these guys, like if the baseball god said, Alfred, you cannot get rid of them both. Pick which one to keep and which one to let go. I would keep Beatty more than I would keep Vientos.
I would keep Beatty, because he's not going to embarrass himself at first base or in the outfield. He's very good at third base. He's a left-handed bat. He's just not going to embarrass himself. Balls get over people's heads all the time. We've seen Gold Glovers have a ball go over their head. It happens.
It happens, but not as frequent as what's happening to Vientos.
Yeah, I mean, Vientos literally, he'll bobble a ball, he'll fall on his face, he'll spike it, he'll, throw it into the base runner or at the base runner. But first base seems to be a very, very highly jinxed position since the departure of John Overwood.
Yeah, no, and as great. Well, Carlos Delgado wasn't a great defensive
He
first
wasn't a
baseman.
great defender. Todd Zeal wasn't. Todd Zeal
No,
was a great bat for that 2000 team. A guy who
we got
signed with the
Adrian.
Mets without a position.
We got Adrian Gonzalez at the end of his career, so he wasn't the same. And as much as I love Pete Alonso,
What was the other guy? The guy from the Dodgers.
yeah,
Loney.
that was Gonzalez. Gonzalez was the
No,
Dodgers before
Loney.
he came here.
Loney.
Oh yes, James Loney. Yep.
You
So
know, all at
bad
the end of their career. Yep.
And then who
So,
do we tried Piazza out at first base once his knee started to give. That was a 4-game experiment. I don't know if you
Todd,
remember. This
we
tells
tried Todd Huntley at first base and in the outfield.
you this is going to tell you how much of a diehard Met fan I am. But Jason Phillips, remember Jason Phillips?
Yeah, the catcher turned first baseman with his goggles.
I would say the only decent first baseman we had in that stretch was Daniel Murphy.
That
And
was bad.
he wasn't the regular first baseman.
Yeah.
So,
it's been a while.
Yeah.
Like really, we haven't had like I mean, you can say Delgado because Delgado hit 40 home runs, drove home 100 RBIs.
Yeah.
He really wasn't the greatest first baseman in the world, but you live with it because he's gonna knock home two a game.
And that's right. That's why I was okay with Alonso because yes, he was deficient at first a little, but the offensive production and
his offensive projection was there, and he was a rah guy. He was all about the team. He had people pumped up. But he might have single-handedly ended Kodai Senga's major league career.
Yeah, I was at that game too with the up high the throw. But no, I'm excited about this Cubs trade. Jefferson Rojas is going to be it's just interesting because Stafura from the Pirates, he's a middle infielder. Rojas is a middle infielder. So clearly, I see the vision. They're preparing for life post Francisco Lindor. Obviously, Ronnie Mauricio is not it. And that's a guy who I'm surprised wasn't moved, even though he's in Syracuse.
Like I said, if they decide to run with Robert as a DH, maybe they keep Ewing at center and they bring Mauricio up and they put him at second base and hope he hits.
Or going
if
back,
he doesn't, you have a plan B already.
Or going back to your earlier point about Robert, say you dump Robert, right, and you want to keep Ewing in the outfield. Don't forget, we still have Nick Morabito down on the farm. Morabito can come up and play center, and
he can. I just don't think his ceiling is as high as Ben.
No, because he didn't have a good stint up in the bigs here when he was here for the cup of coffee he had. But I could picture Morabito in center, Benjamin right, Ewing in left, and Soto the DH. Or you can, if they want to re-sign Jared Young, who's had a pretty good defensive season at first. Remember, he's a left fielder by trade. He just happens to play a very good first base. So there are options within the organization. But the last trade I want to talk to you about, Kevin, and our Mets fandom has brought us a lot of disdain this season, but none worse than Freddie Peralta. Freddie Peralta, we gave up Jet Williams and Brandon Sproat, two big prospects in our farm system, and I went out on a limb. I don't know if you ever saw any of the stuff I said last season in the winter, but I always felt that it should have been Jonah Tong instead of Brandon Sproat who went in that trade, only because while, yes, last season Jonah Tong was the minor league strikeout leader, when he came up, that did not translate to major league hitting.
And he looked like a deer in headlights a lot.
Yeah, and the worst part is he came up this season for a cup of coffee, and he looked worse this season than he did last season. At least Brandon Sproat has turned into the fourth guy over in Milwaukee. Yeah, he's never going to be your ace or your second or third guy. He's not going to be an all-star, but he is a serviceable back-end rotation piece. Jet Williams hasn't come up yet for the Brewers. I don't know if we'll see him this season. Probably not, since the Brewers are in contention. But with that being said, Freddie Peralta, we gave up significant prospects for Peralta. Granted, we did get Tobias Myers in the deal too, who has been very underwhelming in his tenure so far. But Peralta, this guy, like, I was ready to hop on a float and go to a parade down Roosevelt Avenue, welcoming this guy, and we see what he did in Milwaukee, multiple-time All-Star, was the ace of their staff. He's the guy who made Corbin Burns expendable, which is saying a lot because Corbin Burns is one of the better starting pitchers of this generation. And he didn't become expendable himself, Peralta, until Jacob Mizorowski came around. But that's a different story for a different day on a different show. But Peralta comes here, and we see what he does opening day. He wins. He gets credited with the win, although he struggled, 6 runs. But it's very telling to me that this was the and every offseason, every team has their prized acquisition. Yeah. And this was supposed to be the guy for us. Before the season even started, there was rumors swirling amongst Mets fan bases, or the hype was, we got to extend Peralta. We got to get a deal done. We got to lock him up long term. And, thank God we didn't, because look what he became to be. They call him 5-inning Freddie for a reason. Guy can't throw more than 5 innings. And then I've been at games in Citi Field where I look up at the board and we're in the 4th inning and the pitch count is 96. And I'm thinking to myself, how do you throw 96 pitches in 4 1/3 or 4 2/3? Like,
because he's walking 4.5 batters per 9. So if you do the math, and he's only pitching 5, he's averaging 8 runs per 5 innings, like 8 walks per 5 innings. He's not technically walking 8, but if you do the math, he's putting that many base runners on base.
And then here's my other thing. So I decided to go through his game logs a year ago in his last season in Milwaukee, just to see, because again, I follow the whole league, but I just wanted to see if I was going crazy or not. So I decided to do my little research. And last season in Milwaukee, and this was the mind-boggling thing, he only went under 6 innings 3 times last season. He comes here, he's under 6 innings but 4 times.
There's a lot of alarming statistics with Peralta from last year to this year. His hits per 9 is up. His walks per 9 was up. His strikeouts per 9 is down.
Yeah.
I mean, way down. He was one of the elite strikeout pitchers of last year. He struck out 200 batters. Yep. This year, he was averaging just over 8 strikeouts.
Let me ask you a question, because the rumor I read online was that a lot of the opposing general managers think he's still good, but that the Mets, that we messed him up. Do you think so? Or do you think this is who he really is?
I don't think so. I think Freddie Peralta was his own worst enemy because he came to New York and he put everything on his shoulder is, I got to be the man. Instead of just pitching his game, he took his head out of his own ability.
Well, I don't know what it was. And then his quotes to the media, I remember back in May, he said he still had time to get it right. And this is when the Mets weren't as bad as they are now. They were only 8 games under at the time. And, 4 games back in a wild card. And, to say in May you have time, I'm like, okay. But everything just progressively kept getting worse and worse and worse. Then there was the infamous Howie Rose quote where he said that if Peralta goes more than 5, we should throw him a parade. God bless Howie. That's the most accurate thing I think he said all season. But Peralta, and then the outrageous demand for him and Scott Boras to come out to the media and say we are looking for an 8-year extension. To me, that's egregious, because this guy can't even go 8 innings and 2 starts. And you want
you answered your own question. Who made that statement?
Scott Boras.
There you go.
But
we just had this conversation about Scott Boras.
But in a contract year, you would think Freddie Peralta would be locked in. I'm in a new city, a new town. These people are happy to see me. This is going to be my pitching staff, and
some guys can't do it. Some guys can't do it. They tell themselves they can do it, and then they get here, and their mental game is so bad that it affects their physical game. And because you saw it sometimes, he'd reel back fire 97, boom, blow it away, and then 2 pitches later, same 94, and he's getting clubbed into right field. And it's like, what the hell just happened? Like, where did the fastball go? And it's like a whole Ricky Vaughn thing from Major League 2. his mental game affected his physical.
And it's sad, because we look at Freddie Peralta's numbers and this season for the Mets, and a 5-9 record as a starter in 23 starts, 4.99 ERA. Just
kudos, we got it under 5.
yeah, I mean barely like one tick under 5, but not starter like not ace like number like those numbers are
Nope.
what I would expect out of a number 4 or a number 5. But it's just tough. But
This is why I don't get excited. Like people, and look, look, I'm a Met fan. I haven't been to Citi Field. I've been there twice. I went there for the very first game, the exhibition game against the Red Sox in 2009.
2009. Yep, I was there.
And then I went to game 2 of the season against the Marlins. And that's it.
Not
I haven't been back.
Not even an interest to go to the 15 World Series.
I had no interest in going because at first it was like I am not going until the Will Pond sell. Then the Will Pond sell, then life gets in the way. You have get older, you get mature, and you got bills to pay and bullshit to do, and no more season tickets. So it was like, all right, and then you get older, and you're like, I don't want to make that drive.
Yeah, the commute.
I'm lucky I leave the house, but yeah, I mean, it's just I've gotten to the point where I don't get excited over nothing. Like they can sign anybody. Like, and you name somebody, and if the Mets sign, I'll be like, we'll see.
Well, there have been pitchers in the past that the Mets have either signed in free agency or traded for that I could remember that I got excited about. I remember in prior to 2003, they signed Tom Glavine. Granted, he wasn't the same Tom Glavine.
Yeah, see, I wasn't excited about that, and I'll never forgive that guy again getting destroyed the last game of the season.
Yeah, but he also got in the car accident on the highway on the way to the game.
Yeah.
So, but
what was that? We had that other reliever, the reliever who was like lights out, was Duana Sanchez.
Sanchez,
he lost his front teeth on the cab freaking seat.
Yep. Freak accident.
They should have had Uber Eats back then.
But when we got him, when we got Tom Glavine, excited. When we got Pedro Martinez, fresh off a World Series run, I was ecstatic. It was, but and then we trade for. I mean, granted, 2023 was a lost season. 22 was a lost season, but when Scherzer and Verlander were here, I was excited for that. We got Verlander fresh off a World Series run.
Man, you get excited too easy, man. Yeah.
Listen,
I mean, I lived through the dismantling of the '86 rotation, and then we moved right up into Generation K, which that was a freaking disaster. And then we had I don't even think they had a name, but you had Wheeler, Matt, DeGrom, Syndergaard,
and Bartolo in one rotation.
And no, it was somebody else. Harvey. And then somehow we screwed that up too. So I mean, it's just.
Well, no.
Yeah, Bartolo Colon was the best pitcher out of not named DeGrom.
Yeah. Yeah, no, that tells you a lot. And but no. So when we got Freddie, I was like, okay, like him, and I'm thinking here, him and McLean are going to be a nice 1-2 punch. Clay Holmes would have been the number 3, and then whoever we fill out 4 or 5, I would have been okay with. But it's just disappointing. And then the haul that we got back for Peralta, 3 prospects. But when we gave up Williams and Sproat, they were 2 of the top 10. Here we get number 12, outfielder Aiden Smith. Number 15, Emilian Pitre, who scouts are saying is the gem of the haul. And then the guy with the interesting name, GGH, Gary Gilhill, they're number 17. You look at the prospect profiles.
He's not related to Glenn Allen.
No, not that I know of. A lot of people are saying that
interesting name.
A lot of people are saying that Gary Gilhill is going to be the first one to come out of the 3 that should make it up. He's a local kid, born and raised in New Rochelle, and they say he's an extreme strike thrower, but his breaking stuff is underwhelming. Has a great fastball. 20 starts in AA, 4.49 ERA. His career projection is to be a career number 5 pitcher in a rotation somewhere. Pitre, they're saying has the highest ceiling out of the 3. He was originally drafted by the Rays. where obviously Peralta's going. Also in Double-A, 88 games, and he's hitting 323 with an on base of 451, drawing walks at a high clip. That's not bad at all. Because if there's one thing the Mets lack, it's guys getting on base in timely situations.
Yeah. Or at all.
Yeah, or at all. So nice little haul there. But Peralta going to Tampa, very interesting because Tampa is first in the AL East by a decent margin over the Yankees. Of course, some people attribute that to Aaron Judge being gone. But, when you think of Tampa Bay, you don't really think of their pitching. You think of their offense. Junior Caminero is out.
Which is weird because it always used to be about their pitching.
Yep, but now it's their offense because they have Yandy Diaz, they have Junior Caminero, they have Chandler Simpson, who I always said is the modern-day Kenny Lofton, even though that might be some too high praise, but good defensive guy, good speedy guy. So, I
relate him more to Deion Sanders.
Well, Deion didn't hit all that great, but
he hit enough to get on. Hit enough to get on base and cause havoc.
Well, he's also the reason why Bo Jackson threw his shoulder out, but don't ask Bo about that. But no, the haul for Peralta, not the best, but I equate Peralta like this: you go and buy a car, or you go and get a car, you drive it off the lot, the car ends up being a lemon, so you trade it back in, and it's nowhere near worth what it once was when you first got it. So I'm actually glad that the Freddie Peralta era is over in Flushing. I can't tell you how many times I sat in Citi Field this season and just said to myself, oh, Jesus, he's taxing the bullpen. That was my favorite line. He's taxing the bullpen because, Freddie, he goes into a game and he's not going to get 5 innings. It was to the point that the DraftKings line was Peralta guaranteed over under 15 and a half outs. And if you would have took under, you would have hit every time.
It's sad. It really is because it's become acceptable in baseball to be like this, and it's just awful.
Now, Peralta, but I can't be too mad at Peralta because, like you said, it might be a New York thing. We've seen many athletes, not just in baseball, football, basketball. They come here from small market teams, and they were a superstar where they were. They come here, and they just don't have it in the bright lights. Granted, like what you said earlier, I think the Yankees are more under a microscope than the Mets are, but New York is still New York at the end of the day. And even
at the end of the day, the Mets. The problem is that everybody waits for the Mets to fail. That's the problem. So when they do fail, it's kind of like, the Mets. When the Mets are successful, everybody becomes skeptical because it's like, okay, we're waiting for the other shoe to fall. When's the wheel gonna come on?
Yep.
And and it sucks because that's how we are as Mets fans. It's like we can never have anything nice because anytime we get anything nice, we screw it up,
and we don't appreciate it.
We just wait for it to blow up at some point, and usually the Mets don't disappoint. It does. So it's. I mean, look, you can go through can't miss prospects. The Mets have had. You can go through free agent acquisitions that like Jason Bay, guys like that, they're just never panned out.
Move on.
I mean, but we're not the only. But look, I'll bring that up. Mo Vaughn, to me, I had no issues. Steve Phillips, okay, brought in Roberto Alomar.
Also too late.
Who finished the year before third in the American League MVP vote. Okay, the guy still had something left based on that season. He brought in Jeremy Burnett, who's coming off back-to-back 35-plus home run seasons. Plus, he was already a Met earlier in his career, so he was familiar with the Mets. So, okay, we're good. We traded Kevin Appier to get Mo Vaughn. We didn't give up anything. We gave up Kevin Appier. He was the fifth starter on that 2000 Mets team. Okay? He did hit one of the freaking biggest home runs I've ever seen in my life at Shea Stadium. Christ. I think the ball's still traveling. So when he made these moves, you were like, all right, they're awesome. They're awesome. They all blew up, of course, because it's the Mets. Roberto Alomar couldn't stay on the field. He was hurt. He couldn't hit his weight. Mo Vaughn constantly hurt. He had the freaking elbow injury. When he did hit the ball, though, he hit it 490 feet all the time. And Burnett was okay. Burnett did what Burnett does, and and they wound up trading him anyway. At the deadline. But
had a rookie Ty Wigginton on that team too.
Yeah, but you can't really fault it. Like everybody's like, "Oh, Steve Phillips is." Why do people listen to Steve Phillips? He was one of the worst GMs the Mets ever had. He really wasn't.
2000. That's all. Back-to-back playoff years and one World Series.
Right, and then but in 2000 off season going into 01, on paper those moves were like, holy yay! Like we're going back. We're going to the World Series this year. Like that. Those moves are insane. Like who we were replacing at first base? Todd Zeal. Who were we replacing at second base? Nobody. Edgardo Alfonso. I think he went to third base, didn't he?
He went to third, yep.
Yeah, because Ventura was gone. Right. And then Jeremy Burnett, played some outfield because, Lance Johnson was gone. So it's like, all right, we can totally live with this. And then, of course, the wheels came off and the Mets did what the Mets do.
That pitching rotation, Leiter and Traxel were underperforming that year.
Yeah.
Dave Malicki was in the rotation, which, but so.
Hey, whatever, man. He gave us our first freaking Subway Series win.
Yeah, true also. But as far as guys who were not traded, we brought up Luis Robert. I was lobbying for Francisco Alvarez to get traded.
Absolutely.
And I'll tell you why. Alvarez, when he was a prospect, everybody talked about this kid has prolific power, right? And granted, I'm not counting 2022 when he only played a handful of games, but his first full season in the majors was 23. He hit 24 home runs, and I believe had about 60 or so RBIs. Then 2024 comes, he gets hurt. Last year comes, he gets hurt. This year, 24, 11 homers and 29 RBIs. Last year, 11 home runs and 29 RBIs. Same amount of RBIs and home runs in 2 consecutive seasons. And this year, 12 home runs, and I think he's approaching 30 RBIs for the year. This is a guy who each year, since that first full year in the bigs, he's been hurt. He's missed the amount of games played has decreased every year, with the exception of this year because there was enough time left in the year. His power went down. He went from 24 home runs to 11 to 12, and the RBIs have gone down every year too. So my thing is this: some people say,
you add in last year led all of baseball and passed balls and didn't play the whole season,
exactly.
and this year currently leading the league of pass balls again.
And missed significant time. He missed time this year. Last year he missed time. Not only did he miss time due to injury, he was also sent down to AAA in the middle of the season last year too.
Yeah.
So this is a guy who is not living up to the hype that he had when he was a prospect. He's been more unavailable than available due to injury and struggle. And some people tell me, well, don't be so hard on him, Alfred. He's only 24 years old. He still has a lot of career left ahead of him.
He's 34 years old, but he's a catcher, so he's technically like 32.
Exactly, because his knees is going to wear out, his back is going to wear out. And mind you just said he's a catcher. What do catchers have to do? Throw down to second when somebody's trying to steal. He's already had a broken wrist and a broken hamate bone in the same hand that he has to throw the ball with. Here's my thing. I understand that Alvarez this year is hitting 264 so far this season. And I always say 250 is the modern day 300 by today's standards. So while his average is there, honestly, Luis Torrens is a better defensive catcher. Torrens may not give you the same offensive production that Alvarez will, but at least Torrens doesn't get hurt, and Torrens has a stronger arm going down to second. Torrens has better pop time than Alvarez, and as you mentioned, the lack of pass ball to Torrens compared to Alvarez. I would say try to get something for him while you can, because, again, prior to all these trades that we made today and over the weekend, our farm system was not even in the top 10. We need to retool the farm. And you can't blame having a bad farm system on, we graduated Benj, we graduated Ewing, we graduated Thornton. Like, it doesn't, you still have to keep arms and bats in the farm in case you need them. So
Yep.
I would
It's just like you need to keep veterans in AAA just to need them.
Yeah, and then here's the other thing. A lot of people say, yeah, well, Alvarez has the team control. Yeah, he has the team control, but what good is the team control if he's gonna miss games because he's getting hurt and the productivity keeps?
Yeah.
And I'm a big numbers
guy. Look, bottom line is, I agree with you. He should have been gone.
He should have been gone.
Absolutely should have been gone. I definitely would have called Cashman, asked him, say, hey, you guys need a catcher. You're down on Wells. Sanchez is not the answer. Ben Rice is, first base DH. So,
yeah.
Let's make something happen.
Boston needed a catcher, and they went and got Rutschman from the Orioles. Which
right.
The writing was on the wall there because Basayo is a catcher too. So the fact that they had Rutschman at DH and Basayo at catcher was kind of weird to me.
Yeah, well, they also brought in a catcher too.
Yeah, and they brought one in. So, but
yeah, I said that the other day. I forgot who did they bring in? Oh, Jake Rogers.
Yep, and then who? Well, Detroit, they pretty much given up on their season, but they could have used a catcher because they're still in the wild card hunt mathematically.
When Baltimore made the move for Jake Rogers, I said that I thought Rutschman was going to go to the Yankees.
Yeah.
Because I knew Sam Bathalo is he's their guy, and the Yankees could, I think Adley Rutschman would have. Oh man, he would have killed it. Switch hitter at the Yankee Stadium. I think he would have killed it there, but for some reason they're so high on Wells still. I just don't get it. They're happy with Wells and Sanchez, even though Wells literally is having one of the worst offensive seasons for a catcher in the history of baseball.
Only had power for the Dominican Republic this winter. That's all his power was.
It's just weird. So I as a Mets GM, I would have been on the phone to, hey, Francisco Alvarez is available.
The White Sox.
Who do you want to squeeze out? Well, you want to give it Dominguez? We'll take Dominguez. You want Dominguez and Wells? We'll take both.
Honestly, here's what I would have did if I would have called the Yankees. Give me George Lombard. I would have took George Lombard Jr.
I don't think they're going to give up another shortstop. I don't think they're going to give up George Lombard for Francisco Alvarez. I think that would have been a Dominguez kind of, that's about it. They're not going to give us Spencer Jones. I think it would have been a Dominguez and Wells kind of thing, and the Yankees would have had to pay, certain more cash as well.
And then it's funny because you could have went Torrens, and then you could have brought Hayden Senger back up to finish the rest of the year out. Let that kid play.
Yeah. Or if Wells was involved in the trade, you could have, you get Dominguez over here. You let him play with a little less pressure in New York. Earn his keep for next season. Let Wells finish the season with Torrens here. And then reevaluate him in the offseason, or you trade him in the offseason.
Yep.
There's always bad teams that are always bad that need a catcher.
And the Mets actually have I got a chance to see this guy play because I went to Port St. Lucie back in February to go to spring training. And I don't know if you're aware of Chris Suero, but that kid is going to be a stud in my opinion. Literally can play every position. His primary position is catcher, but he can play outfield and he can play first base. So if he can, have another good season, because he's in Double-A right now, but if he can possibly move up to Syracuse next year and have a good year at Syracuse, season after next, he might be the Mets' permanent answer or a long-term answer at catcher for the Mets' backstop position. But no, I would have flipped Alvarez, and like I said, catcher is one of the most weakest positions in baseball right now, outside of maybe the Dodgers, who, of course, Will Smith is on the IL, but Dalton.
Yeah, and he wasn't really hitting this year anyway. Yeah. Will Smith is like an every other year guy.
Yeah,
if you look at his career numbers.
Rushing has been a good replacement for him.
He is. The problem with him is he's another one. He's his own worst enemy because he's a little bit of a mental case.
Yeah, but all these other teams in contention. You look at the White Sox; they need a catcher. Guardians could use an upgraded catcher. A lot of these other the Red Sox address the need. Yankees could use another catcher. So even the Braves are set. The Phillies are set.
Yeah.
They're not gonna move on from Real Muto.
Well, the only way I would have saw if they would have made a move with the Phillies, because they had intentions of moving Harper to the outfield anyway, is that you could have had Alvarez catch half the time and put Real Muto at first base to
Well,
save
no,
his legs.
the Phillies just acquired a first baseman. Because
Yeah, I'm just saying before
yeah,
they acquired a first baseman, you could have
they,
put Real Muto,
yep,
flip Harper and Real Muto at first base, and then Harper in the outfield when Alvarez catches, so you can
yep,
keep Real Muto's bat in the lineup and his leg fresh. Because he
and
actually did the couple of years he did play first base. Real Muto was very good at first base.
and it's funny because they went and got Luis Arias from the Giants. That lineup just got much more brutal because Luis Arias might win the batting title again this season.
Yeah.
Guy batting over 326, which in this day and age is unheard of.
So I'm guessing he's going to play first base for them?
Playing first. I got an alert about an hour ago. Harper is playing right field again.
Yeah.
So, it's the Phillies. They're clearly. I don't think they're going to catch the Braves in the NL East, but they definitely are going to hold on to that wild card spot. But the Mets. It's been a down year. I'm shocked they didn't move Alvarez. Also shocked, like I said, I was a clear. I clearly wanted Ronnie Mauricio traded only because I think the ship has sailed on Mauricio. He hasn't been the same since he got that ACL tear playing winter ball in the Dominican Republic. He showed promise that first year he was up for the cup of coffee he had, but and then also the thing about Mauricio, he's never gonna, as long as Lindor is at shortstop for us, there's no room for Ronnie Mauricio.
Yeah.
He's the type of guy he should be in the bigs right now and getting reps every day, not playing in the minor leagues. Because again, we all know AAA pitching is not major league pitching, and if you're bombing away in AAA and can't do it at the MLB level, like we said earlier, he's a quadruple A player.
Yeah.
And I would hate to think about Ronnie in that way because when he was a prospect, he was highly thought of, and it just goes to show how many highly thought of prospects over the years the Mets have had. And Scott Kazmir never made his debut with us. We traded him. Lastings Millage, Gavin Cicchini, and all these other folks. I would hate to group Ronnie Mauricio in that class of Mets.
Doing hype.
But
the laundry list is embarrassing.
The amount of false hope. But yeah, that's been the trade deadline. The Mets. It's not even. It doesn't. I usually go over the Mets schedule every episode, but there's no point in doing so in a lost season. You traded.
I was hoping they would have traded Semien. Now that he's healthy, I know he's got money coming to him, but we moved Verlander and Scherzer with the same problem.
What it is? He's played so poorly. I don't think that anybody has a need for a declining, middling of the pack second baseman. His bat speed is down this year too. So and then to nobody's surprise, some people said Kodai Senga would get moved. He's played so horribly that he's not even worth a cup of coffee. He's just worth the cup without the coffee. I
could have totally saw him actually going to the Padres. Like that's
really?
a team that, the Padres and the Dodgers, they love the Asian players.
Yeah.
And they usually do well there. Yu Darvish was with the Padres. He did very well there. Yeah. The Dodgers had the middle infielder Kim and obviously Ohtani and Roki Sasaki, not so much, but Yamamoto's doing well. So, I mean, I could have saw him, West Coast, a little bit more laid back, not the scrutiny, not the cameras up there. I could have saw like the Mets kind of unloading him to the Padres.
Honestly, and I'm
maybe
very honest with you, I think I'm in the minority here, but if I'm Cohen, I got the money, DFA him, send him back to NPB, let him go back to Japan and be a legend.
Why don't you see if you could trade him first? I mean, that's the last resort. I mean, trade him if you can get somebody for him. Who cares?
Who would take him, and what would you get for him? That's the other thing.
A contract for a contract. That's what's going to want him.
And then also, what team is going to want to take on that contract? Because he has a hefty contract. Remember, he was a Billy Epler signing. He has a hefty contract, and he's not even playing anywhere up near to that contract.
Well,
so if I'm another team, do I really want to take
the Padres have a couple of salaries they wanted to get rid of, so you can totally see Mr. Senga being unloaded for Xander Bogaerts.
Well, Bogarts does play third. Bichette may not come back in the offseason.
So you might see him get traded. Maybe they never mind. They're like, all right, let him pitch the rest of the year. Hopefully, he pitches well or good enough, and we'll unload him in the off season. Because again, the Padres have a lot of contracts. Of course, they have Machado and the Tatis, but they have some contracts that they need to. They still got Pivetta under contract too, don't they?
I believe so. Yeah.
Yeah.
Still got Michael King under contract, who is having a down year as compared to previous years. So, but
so it could be a contract for contract, and it could work out to be both benefits because it changes scenery.
Could be, but yeah. And then the Mets, of course, this week on the schedule starting tomorrow. Guardians weekend series against the Pirates on the road. Then they go to SunTrust to play the Braves before they come home and play the Nationals. Probably going to lose more than we win, but again, I'll only be watching those games to see the starts of
what is that, 12? What is that, 12 games?
12 games, yep. The upcoming schedule, starting tomorrow, 3 against the Guardians, 3 against the Pirates in the weekend. Then that Monday, they're in Atlanta for 3. So that's a 9-game road trip. I'm only going to watch for the McLean, the Thornton, the Scott starts, and anything that Benjamin Ewing could possibly do. So,
yeah. I mean, I watch because I play Stratomatic baseball, so I watch a lot of baseball, so I can follow the guys that are on my team, and then guys who are not in the league yet, like Spence and Ewing and Thornton. But I have Jose Ramirez, which is having a
look at this comment in my comment section from Shy Money 360. They should have traded Stearns. I wish we could send him back to Milwaukee where he came.
Can you imagine? Didn't they do that one year? They traded not the Mets, but didn't that happen in Major League Baseball? They traded a GM or a manager.
I don't recall. I know in the NFL, coaches have been traded, but I never.
I'm pretty sure that happened in baseball.
Not maybe it did, and I just don't remember. But yeah, no, I'm very. This was a very lackluster season, and stupid me got the email over the weekend saying, "Yep, it's time to renew." And part of me is like, should I do it every year, almost every year?
It's rough. I mean, I did the same thing. 96 we started showing some promise. 97 and 98, you're like, all right, this team's not bad. Almost made the playoffs.
99 came.
99, they made. They were that close. And then 2000, which probably one of the worst teams I ever seen go to the World Series, but yet there they were. And watch, Yankees win on Shea Stadium, at Shea Stadium, which is disgusting. But then 2000 going into 2001, they almost doubled the prices of the tickets. And I was just like, all right. I'm like, 2001. I'm like, this is our last year. I'm like, I can't do it. The first 3 years I did the season, the partial things. I did, it was Wednesday, Thursday, Sunday.
Uh-huh.
And then 98, 99 through 2001, I did full season.
No, that's where because I can't go to every single game. I
didn't go to every game. 2000, though, I did go to 75 games between the Mets, and we went to RFK to watch a game. We were in Philly a couple of times. I was in Tampa a couple of times. I did travel a lot to watch baseball, but I sold marquee tickets. So in 2000, I actually made my money back. I made all my money back because people wanted to see the Yankees, they wanted to see the Red Sox. So we would buy upper deck right behind home plate, and we would sell our load seats, which was 4 rows in, first seat under the deck. So if it rained, we were dry.
You were safe, yeah.
Yeah, and we would sell those tickets. So when the World Series happened, they made us move up to the mezzanine.
Yeah.
And so we were like, all right, same seat, just one level up. So we bought World Series upper deck right behind home plate, because with the season tickets got first crack at purchasing tickets. And we sold our World Series tickets literally for double what I paid for the World Series ticket. It was sick. It was
all
like,
right.
Can't do that no more.
No. Nope. Too much money. Alfredo Flores says Billy Wagner got traded to the Red Sox in 2009. Mets best closer since post-Franco era. I disagree with that.
Franco was one of the worst closers in the history of the team. He got
Well,
saved, but he turned 3-run wins into 1-run wins.
Well, that's the old Franco save. But to be fair,
Yeah.
he is the Mets all-time leader in saves. But
No, he's the all-time leader for a left-handed pitcher, a left-handed club. But dude, his whip isn't closer-ish. He
no,
allowed a lot of runs to score and caused a lot of. He made Cubs a lot of money.
Well, Alfredo says that Billy Wagner was the best closer since Franco, but I disagree. I think Jeurys Familia had a better run than Wagner, and I think Edwin Diaz definitely had a better run than Wagner.
Edwin Diaz definitely, outside of his first season, Edwin Diaz had a great run. And you know, look, can't shake a stick at Armando Benitez. He had his moment, especially when he took over for Franco.
K-Rod was okay too.
K-Rod was okay, and then he was never the same after Luis Castillo dropped that freaking pop up.
Yeah,
against the
Yankees. That should have been over.
Yeah,
like Yankee fans love to remind me of that, but
the slowest guy on the planet Earth, Mark Teixeira scoring, and him throwing the second base.
Like, what was that gonna do? But
yeah.
So we're gonna wrap this up here. Kevin, thank you so much for being on the show. I remember you. We had talked months ago about getting you on. We finally had an opportunity.
When we still had hope.
When we still had hope. It took the Mets going in a dumpster fire to get you on the show. Hopefully, we'd love to have you back on the show.
You see that mark in the wall behind me?
Yeah.
Yeah, that's thanks to the Mets.
Really?
Yeah.
Listen, I've gone through a cell phone screen recently because of the Mets. So
yeah, I got to stop buying foam bricks so I stop breaking shit.
Yeah, no. One last comment here. Talk about Mets trades. Vizcaíno to Indians in 96, Marlon Byrd to the Pirates in 2013, Cone to Toronto in 92, Beltran to the Giants in 11, and Granderson to the Dodgers in 17.
Yeah, but Beltran, we got did we get Thor for him?
Yes.
Oh no, that was for Dickey. That was for Dickey.
No,
we got
it was Zach Wheeler.
Zach Wheeler, yeah. We got Zach Wheeler for Beltran. Hey, we got Jeff Kent for David Cone. He's in the Hall of Fame.
What did we get from the Dodgers for Grandy man? I don't remember.
His career was over at that point.
Yeah, no, because Granderson after the Dodgers, he went to the Marlins, and then he went to the Blue Jays and finished his career there.
Yeah, his career. The Vizcaíno. What was it? Vizcaíno to what? Which one was that one?
Vizcaíno went to the Indians in 96.
Yeah, with Jeff Kent.
With Jeff Kent, yep.
Yeah, we got Carlos Baerga though, and Alvaro Espinosa.
Yeah.
Which he was about 75 years old at that point. And Carlos Baerga didn't do shit when he was here.
Nope, nothing. So, but again, Vizcaíno later went on to come back to Shea Stadium and get his handheld, get to raise the trophy on us. So,
yeah.
I mean, it all worked out for him after.
Rear his ugly head at our expense.
But Kevin, are you working on anything that you would want people to see on social media? Maybe give yourself a plug.
Well, we do have big event coming up in November and WrestleCade in November.
Yep.
We have a couple of guests coming up with that. We have Bobcat, which was one of Godfather's hoes that became the hardcore champion for about 35 seconds.
Yep.
And
for those of you, sorry to cut you off, for those of you folks who don't know, Kevin's in the wrestling business. You go to like these fan conventions and fan fests. He's an agent for a couple of these former teams.
Yep, I represent about 6 different talents, including WWE Hall of Famer Eric Bischoff, current AEW star Nyla Rose. But we have a former NXT talent, Serena Linton, coming in. We have Delmy Exo, who is a local talent. We're still working on our 4th talent. And at WrestleCade, we have former WWE's Brad Maddox coming to that event. And D365promotions.com. You can check out all where we're going to be, who we're going to be with. And also, if you're a vendor or promoter, you can book one of our exclusive talents as well, which we lost one because Nikki Blackheart signed with NXT. She's now Raina Vulcan. And, but we're very happy. So at least we knew what we were doing when we signed her.
That happens. But yeah, folks. So if you're interested in checking out big event WrestleK, come see Kevin and several of those wrestling legends and current TV stars. Again, he will have the memorabilia to get autographed for you for a fee.
Yeah.
So go ahead and see him. But folks, that has been a Metropolitan Report. Kevin, thank you so much for joining
Thank
us.
you.
Of course, I was very excited to have you on because you were a former Major League Baseball employee. So, and you worked scoring games, so your perspective is probably far different.
When we talk shop, we really talk shop.
Oh, absolutely! I've enjoyed this conversation, but I wish I had all the rest of the night to keep going. But
yeah, well,
but
one day we'll have to bring me on for some press box stories.
Yep. So you know what? Matter of fact, when next season comes around, we'll get you on in spring training. That way we can have more hope than we had today. That
we always have hope after Christmas.
Yep. And listen, everybody's 0-0 around Christmas time. So
yeah.
But all right, folks. Again, thank you guys for watching. Follow us on YouTube, Metropolitan Report Podcast, Instagram, _Metropolitan_Report, on X, Mets_Report_pod, Facebook, Metropolitan Report, and of course, TikTok, Metropolitan Report Podcast. For Kevin Nasta and myself, we thank you for watching, and I will see you next time. And unfortunately, even though the season's over, it's always still going to be Let's Go Mets.